Hey, welcome, Jerry. We are on
Hi, Annie.
night two of filing week for election 2025 in Kitsap County. We had approximately 9 new people join our list this evening. Throughout the day, they filed, but we have 9 new people to talk about. Um, let's start off with introductions. I'm Hanny. I'm the former
Eh,
chair of the Kitsap County Democrats, former vice chair of the 26th District Democrats. I grew up on the shores of Yukon Harbor. A fun bit about Yukon Harbor is that Curly Creek is nearby, and Curly Creek was the site of a winter camp for one of our two tribes here in Kitsap County, the Suquamish tribe. So the other tribe being Port Gamble Sklallam. And so with that, I think I'm good for now. Sherry, take it away.
and good evening. Hi, Annie.
Hi.
I'm Jerry Hebert. Um, I've got a long history, so because I'm old and stayed alive, which is basically the whole reason. But I, I've lived here in beautiful Kitsap County. I've had a home here for over 40 years and have enjoyed a very fruitful and long involvement in community affairs, community activities. I was an appointed Washington State Human Rights Commissioner for 2 terms, and that's a Senate approved kind of position. And I started the Port Gamble Slalom and Suquamish Tribes Extended College campus for the Northwest Indian College, where I profitably, proactively recruited my students and a variety of teachers and built a good little college program that got a lot of new students their first degrees, which was exciting. Other than that,
Absolutely.
every day is a new day, and it's not what I did in the past. It's what we're doing tomorrow that counts.
Right
Back to
on.
you, Annie. Oh,
Hey, and thank you for joining me for night two of filing week here in Kitsap County. Like I said, I mean we have a whole 9 people who joined today. Jerry, did we get confirmation from our candidate if we can announce them their campaign yet?
hold on 1 second. Let me take a look at that communication
Sure.
and see.
Meanwhile, while we're waiting,
Okay,
uh,
as a matter of fact,
yes.
the the answer was no, you can.
No, I can.
No, you can. Yes, that's the way I'm interpreting it.
No, I
Yes,
can. Yes, I can.
yes, yeah, yes. We
Okay.
can say something about it. The filing will be done on Thursday, so when we come up, we
Yes.
can
Yes. When we
mention.
get, well, yeah, when we get to that part of our program. Eh. All right. So this evening, before we begin our list of 9, I just want to point out that one of the best resources for you as average voter in Kitsap County or super voter of Kitsap County, whichever voter you are in Kitsap County, a really great resource for you to have readily available to you can be found as pdc.wa.gov. This is the Public Disclosure Commission, and you can find out wonderful things on there. You can see how the money is spent in a campaign. You can see who contributes to a campaign. So, say, hypothetically speaking, I wanted to go check out who's donating to Michelle Caldier right now. certainly you could visit the Public Disclosure Commission website at pdc.wa.gov and see who contributes to her website, or who contributes to her campaign, rather, how the expenditures, what is being spent on what for the campaign. Really wonderful resource. So be sure to keep that in mind when you're checking out candidates this year. Yeah.
I have a question,
Sure.
Hanny.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you know anything about where that came from? I mean, we have a great government here, but I haven't been here all my life.
Right.
Um, I've never heard of such a thing before I moved here as an initiative from the people. It was like, what the heck? So,
Right. Yeah, and that's
how did the PDC come about?
and
What's that story?
and so yeah, exactly. The PDC, the Public Disclosure Commission, came about as it was a citizen initiative approximately 50 years ago. Yeah, they recently celebrated their 50th birthday. And so I want to say maybe back in the 70s, 1971, I actually found out about how the PDC came to be from Senator Jim Mueller in Vancouver, who's a fantastic person.
I
Rest
knew
his
Jim really
soul.
well.
Yeah, yeah.
Good guy.
He was full of information. I really had loved that about him, and he could always share Washington State political history with me. And yeah. Anyway, so with that, we should probably get into um, our candidates for this evening. One moment. All right, our first new candidate, let me dig through here, would be a candidate for the City of Bremerton Mayor, Marwan Cameron. I literally woke up this morning and saw this and was like, oh, wow. That makes the Mayor of Bremerton race right now a three-way race. Um, Marwan, as you may or may not know, is a community leader, does a lot of volunteer work with groups like Gather Together, Grow Together. He has another venture where he's regularly showing local Bremerton things. Like I know he's at city council meetings and he's recording those and producing really nice packages for viewers like us to watch. He previously ran for a Bremerton City Council seat against Jane Rebelowski. And so I did contact him this morning, Jerry. I instantly, I had to text Marwan. I'm like, hey, Marwan, gosh, good luck. Good luck. Wow. So that was kind of fun. So,
It is, and I'm one of those old time Democrats that firmly encourages lots of primary competition. That's the time that we've got to bring out our shiniest and our best and make a
right.
decision.
Yeah.
Fortunately, in this Bremerton mayor's race, God, I'm glad I live in Paulsboro.
Right. Yeah. It's going to be,
This is
um,
going to be a tough race to make a decision on because your candidates are A number one.
yeah, yeah. So the next person who filed today was for City of Bremerton Municipal Court Judge, and that person would be Tom Weaver. You remember Tom Weaver? Yeah, Tom is a longtime lawyer, and before when he ran for this position, he was endorsed by Judge Doctor. And so at any rate, I do think that Tom is a very good candidate. Looking forward to seeing what he's going to bring to the campaign trail and how that's going to, compare, contrast with Steve King, who is the other candidate. So, yeah, looking forward to those conversations. So, Yeah.
Hanny, how you know what I've always had a hard time with these judicial nominations, and I know several members in our paper in our party do too, is it's
Right.
so difficult to ask them questions and to get straight answers.
Right.
Do you have any concept about what the ethical boundaries they keep saying is? Because
Sure.
I don't get it.
Sure. So with judicial candidates, many times people are not a fan of seeing them in like a candidate forum or, and I'm not being weird, but where a regular candidate can answer pretty much anything, judicial candidates are bound by judicial canons, and that's CANNONS, and Google that up, and it's really an interesting read. So, people tend to believe that, when you're talking to judicial candidates, they can't answer as much as you want them to. And it's really because they need to stay impartial. So judicial canons are in place for that very reason. That's a great question. I've spent previous summer at Olympic College following a judicial candidate, and I was always the one at the back of the room going, "Oh yeah, can you tell us what judicial canons are?" He loved me for that. I want to
And
say,
that's
yeah,
and that's one of the questions though as a voter is how would we weigh the difference between an ideology or a legal interpretation between two different judicial candidates? I guess we basically just want to have to count on their public statement.
pretty much. I mean, and when judicial candidates, like with the League of Women Voters, when they have their candidate forums,
Yeah,
they try to be as nonpartisan, all of that as they can. And, just hearing some of the answers that they can give are pretty telling as well. I have heard some judicial candidates speak before that just, I wasn't really I felt not entirely sure that I wanted to vote for them for whatever
yeah.
reason, whether it was an answer or, something like that. Yeah.
Well, I trust my doctor. I wouldn't trust my doctor to establish new laws for me.
Right.
So, it's always important to understand how a professional, what's their basis for being in their profession?
Right.
Why are they there? And
Right.
that's always the question I like to ask. It shares with me if they're there because of something as clinical as just the law. Well, the law does more than that. Where's your
Right.
passion?
Right.
Which
So,
part of the law?
yeah, I haven't had a chance to meet Steve King yet, although everyone I've spoken with has said, oh, he's a fantastic lawyer. But something positive that I will absolutely say about Tom Weaver is that he's done a lot of difficult cases here in this county, and he does a lot of. I want to say he's done a lot of public defender work as well, and so
Mm-hmm.
he has been here in Kitsap for some time and really established roots here. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to this slot and seeing what each candidate has to say. Definitely.
So that's one of the reasons why it's actually fun to go to the eggs and issues and the other forums when we have the candidates because
Right.
if you don't see them side by side, you really don't get a feel for who they are. And once you get a feel for them, then you know how to communicate with them and how to be on their interest group. So
Right.
it's kind of cool to identify more of our neighbors. I
Right. And
I
it's
think it's
I think that, a lot of candidate forums really, you get the opportunity to hear people. Sorry about that. That's my Dexcom meter telling me I need to fix it in the background. But, with candidate forums, a lot of, it's a really good opportunity to hear more than you would just reading the voter pamphlet. And a lot of the questions are guided or written or composed or whatever, specifically with community goals and that in mind. So, yeah, I think I really have enjoyed going to candidate forums. So,
I have a heartache over some of it, in as much as how many of our non-Democrat folks just never show up because they're afraid to be in a Democrat environment. But we are you want to hear from the candidates. That's what they're for, and we appreciate any community member that wants to join us at our forums in order to hear the truth. As long as we remain respectful and courteous, there's nothing else
right.
to be concerned about. But I got to tell you, I truly think that what we do once we've left those public forums are
Mm-hmm.
the big issue. I think
Yeah,
it's important that we should share with our community what impression we walk away with,
right.
and why. That helps our candidates as well in being able to say, well, yeah, I got my message across, or no, I didn't. So, um,
Absolutely. Recently I went to the Michelle Caldier town hall and I did tweet my experiences on the Twitter. But additionally, I've talked to friends, neighbors, relatives, whether or not they wanted to hear about it, about the town hall and the takeaways that I got from that. And how did I feel about Michelle's performance? I mean, I enjoy going to town halls and then, being able to share with others who maybe didn't weren't available for that opportunity, or it was during a day and time that they had other obligations.
mhm.
It's really important to me that um, people get to hear about our candidates other than, oh, gee, look, it's another picture of that nice smiling girl as you're driving by in Port Orchard. So, yeah, definitely
After
that is a good point to bring up.
we're going to have to put on our parking lot list a discussion of endorsement and what it means as a citizen when you endorse one of the candidates that you choose on their website or in their literature. Is
Right.
what are you saying to the community? So that's going to be an interesting discussion, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, going back to our list, the next person who showed up was South Kitsap School District number 402, Director District 4, Andy Brandon. And let's see, I want to say that Andy Brandon is the current incumbent in that seat, but don't quote me on that because I just want to talk about Brian Pickard all day. Because there you go. No, and I really apologize. I don't have that information. Hopefully, I will remember to look that up and have that for you tomorrow. So let's see. Moving right along.
Well, and being honest, I'm not going to do any important digging on anybody until Friday, because
Right.
it's just, I want to wait and see who's everywhere. Because I've learned one secret about knowing your candidates is when they're friends of yours, you really have to narrow your vision to just seeing them on the job, because we have so many good candidates. You just so hard to make these decisions sometimes.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Looking through this list really quick. Next one up is South Kitsap Fire and Rescue, Commissioner Position 2. DW Dusty Wiley, here in South Kitsap. Everybody knows Dusty.
Yep.
Woo! Okay, there you have it. Dusty's been there for some time. And so he is definitely the incumbent. Let me see if anybody else. Oh, Port of Bremerton District Number 1, Commissioner District 2, Gary K. Anderson. He is also the incumbent in this position. Um, back before Gary became Port of Bremerton Commissioner, I used to into him all the time at different meetings throughout Kitsap County. And I was like, oh, I wonder if he's going to be running for something because Gary made a point to be you would see him at every meeting. Commissioner meeting, oh, there he is. Other meeting, oh, there he is. But Gary, I feel, was getting to learn the lay of the local government for that eventual run to Port Barrington commissioner. He's been a commissioner
That's
for
the
a
way you
bit
do it.
now. Absolutely, absolutely.
I I remember the good old days when we actually scheduled time between meetings to physically go from one place to the other.
Right.
How a candidate is going to be able to keep up in this day of electronic communications? It's almost nonstop.
Right, absolutely. Our next person is in North Mason School District, School Board Director, District Number 2, Leanna K. Krotzer. I have met her. And although we don't necessarily agree politically, Leanna is really a true advocate for kids. And I am excited that she is running again. She's the incumbent in this position. So good luck, Leanna. All right, one moment. I'm trying to see
Hmm.
if I can. No, we did that last night. We did that last night. We did that last night. I believe that's the list. I think I've covered
Oh.
everybody. So
And
our
I
we
want to, I'd
yeah.
like to take just a moment to explain that I'm not flipping somebody off when I'm
Right.
opening my. I've actually had a minor surgery that takes immobilizing the tip of my finger. And as a result, the doctor said I have to keep it elevated. So
Right.
I'm not making comment for anybody. So please
Yeah.
forgive me.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
it's fine.
so that brings us back to our earlier discussion. Then, while we've got this quick time,
Mhm.
is when we come to decisions about our school district, for example,
Right.
um, what kind of markers should we really be looking for in a school district leader? How do you actually measure somebody that would be a good candidate in school?
Y-
Trying desperately to leave out ideology.
Right, no. Why I have always been a supporter of Brian Pickard is because he's been involved within South Kitsap School District for years, whether it was a teacher, whether it was a coach, whether it was in administration, um, South Colby principal. Brian had been there for some time and was really invested. I've seen this firsthand in making sure that all kids have the tools they need to learn and grow. And as you know, South Kitsap School District is the eternal district that will never pass a bond. Um,
You
and
know,
so
that's
we've had to really, really, you know, really, yeah, make do with what
we're
we
popular.
have, for lack of a better word. And, despite all that, it's really good to have Brian on the school board and knowing his commitment to kids and to parents and to community and that
Well, with
he's
that,
truly fighting
with
for
that
them.
same, with that same mindset, what I find interesting is that I have no experience below college level, so you have to forgive me. I have taught school
Right.
and have enjoyed it immensely for many years. The problem that I don't know how to identify is in my schools we have freedom of inquiry rights. So students have a right, if it's an accredited institution, to inquire in any format they wish. They can go in any direction they wish in their academic inquiries, and they have the right to investigate and to express their thoughts. I'm kind of concerned if we have such a right in our elementary schools, and how much control we have over our children's rights to explore their thoughts and their ideas and to be able to not necessarily follow the 40-year plan because it
Right.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
Um, I,
So,
I'm a good example, and I hate to make things this, but it's the best I can make it personal and share that idea. Is that
right.
I didn't bother to buy a home until I was in my 40s and 50s, simply because there was no need. My life wasn't centered around the normal business model.
Right.
I My career took me everywhere. So obviously, the financial planning of the world is set for a 40-year in one job with your 2.5 children and retire in your home and live on the equity and your retirement earnings and your wages and whatever other income and live happily ever after. But that story isn't true, and we know it's not. So how we think about the candidates we're electing for school board, for example, don't we really have to look at those that can also think out of the box enough to say an equal education should be governed by an individual's talents? I think we check out our students when we don't move them into a trade or a business direction by
Right.
the time they're in high school. And I worry that we're spending too much time electing our officials on their ideology rather
Mm-hmm.
than on their vision of the change. Does
Right.
that
Yeah,
make sense?
that's a really, that's a thing. Yeah. I was going to
Well,
say
look
that
what
some
happened
of the
with COVID. We had to
right.
suddenly become, we had to catch up to be able to adapt to COVID.
Right.
And we made amazing advancements that basically did our children absolutely no good.
Right.
And as a result, they've lost that time in their social and personal life as well as their academic life.
Mhm.
I'd like to see a school board focused on how do we make sure the quality of our children's education is also meeting the advancements that our society is experiencing. Um,
You should ask that, like when we go to like candidate forum or eggs and issues,
how
ask that of the
how
school
might I
board
get a
members.
chance to really influence that, Annie?
Right? And then I would think another person that you might want to contact about some of that would be the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction. And that would be Chris Rakedahl's office. And I
Right.
think that's like ospi.wa.us. I may be wrong. You might have to Google it. So sorry.
I
But
think I
yeah.
got his email address anyway, so
All
it's
right.
I
So
can
fair
do that.
enough. Yeah, I
It's
would
kind of
jot him
it's kind
along.
of I just kind of wanted to make the effort to identify with what the voters that I know face when they're standing there going through how am I going to make this decision? I don't know much about them, kind of thing.
Right.
Uh, in my old days, I used to have a meeting at church coffee after Sunday service right before election and go through the entire voter ballot and express what the abilities of each one of the candidates from both parties were doing in order to let people know. And I've always kept that in my head about how life is moving so fast that we don't have a time to really understand or generate the thought process that it takes to critically think through your voting decision. It,
Right. Yeah, a couple of years back, one of my friends did something I thought was just amazing, and I still might do it sometime. It's that amazing. But she actually took the voter's pamphlet and the sample ballot that's in the voter's pamphlet and made big copies of all of it and multiple copies. And she invited a group of friends and neighbors over and had a voter discussion about the entire ballot with everybody's information right in front of them. And she said that, it was a really big success. Not only was it neighbors getting together, but it was a lot of fun to just catch up with people and discuss what's important to you and your community.
And that might be a great idea for me to suggest with some of our folks in the 23rd Legislative District is we could easily go to some of our senior homes and our care homes with the folks that aren't quite as mobile
Right.
and volunteer one afternoon to go through it with the residents that are interested.
You
That's a
know,
good idea.
yeah, back during COVID times, I actually over the summer went to senior homes and talked to residents. At one senior home, we were outside, and she was on the other side of a walkway on a chair, and I was on the other side, and we kind of yelled back and forth. And then for election day, I had dropped off a bunch of I voted stickers at a couple
Sure.
of the local senior homes here in Port Orchard. And it was just, more than anything, to begin with, I had actually had requests to come speak to seniors who were Democrats that just wanted to talk to a Democrat. And that's how I started that whole thing. And then it just kind of bloomed into let me drop off. I voted stickers for residents. And, when a resident wants to talk, go by and visit and do that. So, yeah, that was some great time.
I I turn my every voter sticker that we put out, which I'm grateful to our auditor for making that a regular event. That's
Right,
so cool. But I make them into a button, each one of mine with a magnet because we're so many different meetings. You've got to take it on and off and on and off. I just made
right.
a button out of mine. I think I might have to make some of those for our friends that are at Martha and Mary's and
Mm-hmm.
some of our other
Oh,
facilities. It
yeah.
might be fun.
Yeah. So, weren't we going to announce a candidate? Were
Yeah,
we going to do that?
yeah. For our Bremerton School District,
Yeah,
we
hit it.
have a new candidate. A very well. I don't know. I can't say enough, and it sounds like I'm having another bromance. But the truth is, this candidate has taught me a lot over the last several years about what it takes to be truly aware of the community you live in,
Right,
all of the community you live in.
right.
And he has always been the kind of individual that speaks his mind. He speaks it clearly, and he tries very hard not to be overly emotional,
Yeah.
but for him to control himself with some of the things that he has to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just grateful that he's there to make the rest of us think. But he's also a dear friend and somebody that I will always support.
Yeah.
Um, and you met him.
Oh,
I'm not going to say who it is. You get to.
oh no, I have to tell my story too. So, years ago, this person had come up to Don and me and had said, "Hey, listen, there's this veteran stand down that's held every year in Kitsap County, and y'all got a free day. We could certainly use help." And so Don and I immediately jumped, Don being a veteran. So many of my family are veterans. So, I was like, count me in. And we ended up having a great afternoon talking with veterans and helping them get to resources and information and things they might need. You know, veterans from all over Bremerton. And it was an amazing afternoon. And so the candidate that's going to be running for Bremerton School Board and who will be filing Thursday, so we'll come back and talk about him again Thursday, is none other than Shannon Turner, who has done so many different things in this community. He's been a vice president of NAACP Bremerton. He has been the vice chair of the 23rd LD Democrats. Currently, he's one of the two state committee people for the Kitsap County Democrats. What else? Shannon does some of everything. He is here, there, and everywhere within Kitsap
And he
County, and wow, yeah,
he's one of the things that I admire more than anything else about him, um, is his dedication to his family,
absolutely,
his love of his wife and children, his
yes,
love of the environment that they're in, his consciousness,
mm-hmm.
um, his instinctual need to keep his family safe.
Right,
And it motivates everything. And the more he wants it for his family, the more he wants it for everyone else too. Is
exactly, yeah.
is an amazing man.
I am really excited for Shannon. I feel he will be an excellent addition to the school board, and I am looking forward to hearing from him on the campaign trail. So, yay, congrats, Shannon, and good luck on your run for school board. Yay!
I'll be
Anyway,
there if you need
yeah,
anything.
yeah, definitely. We should probably wrap this up.
Yep.
Have any parting thoughts before we? Oh, you know what? I do. I have a parting thought. Let me just interrupt myself here. Tonight's sunset over Yukon Harbor will be most excellent. All
I'm
right.
just going to put a plug in for our efforts for May of next year that
Yes.
we are planning to do and are in the process of building a democracy conference that will include the first time representation from as many people as we can for each of our identified issues, not
Right.
by party, not by association, but by issue.
Right. Stay tuned for more on that. It's in planning stages. May of next year.
Eric,
Mark that on your calendar. And so, with that, see you tomorrow night. And thanks for tuning in. And yeah.
good night.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.